And we're all good to go. So let's call the committee of the whole meeting to order on March 21st at 1 p.m. Recommendation of the committee of the whole meeting agenda for March the 25th, 2026 to be approved as circulated. Councillor Bailey, Councillor McCabe, all in favor. Carried. Recommendation that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on March 11th, 2026 be adopted. Councillor Evans, Councillor Beach, all in favor. Thank you. Good. We're going to start with delegations. We've got the Okanagan Regional Library delegation. Danielle is here with us. Take it away, Danielle.
Yep, that's perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So this is who I am. I'm Danielle Hubbard, the CEO of the Okanagan Regional Library. I think you probably all know that already since I've been out the last few years as well. And I understand you have quite a bit of presentations on your agenda today, so I will be quick and to my four. Okay, been given the instructions to move forward. I don't know if I can figure out where to point it.
Still hear you.
Oh, should work. It's okay. There we go. Aim at me.
Okay, there we go. So this is the theme of this afternoon's presentation is the role of the library as an economic contributor to the community. That's just a broad theme. Really, the goal of me coming out here is, first of all, to thank Council for your ongoing support of the library. We truly would not exist and be able to offer the services we offer without the support of all of our local governments. So thank you so much for that. And the other purpose of me coming out and speaking with councils is just to provide an open relationship, let you know what we're doing, how we're spending the funds that we receive, and of course give you the opportunity to ask me questions or comments or complaints if there are any, and all the above is welcome. Angie, of course, is our community librarian here in Sicamous. This year I got our community librarians off the hook for presenting to council, but she'll be back next year. So if you have really specific local questions that I don't know the answer to, I'll cross the hall and ask Angie and then get back to you on them. All right. So the first point I wanted to make about economics, I make every year that I come out, is the economic benefit of being part of a regional library system. So the Okanagan Regional has 30 branches. We provide service to 4 regional districts, and we have about 800,000 items in our collection right now. So of course, not all of those physically exist here in Sicamous at any one time, but your residents can come to our branch, browse a different collection every week, and place items on hold from that whole 1,000 items. And that's a picture of our headquarters where all of those books come in and get processed and sent out to the branches. So one of the areas that I'm seeing our staff participate in more and more on the economic front is in career searches and career development. So I think this really flipped during the COVID years in that we'll realize they can live in one place, work in another place. But what that also means is that there has been a big turnover in people searching for jobs, looking for employment, and the library is a resource for people. So we have open Wi-Fi, we have computer stations, we have printers, scanners. Those are all resources that are easy to take for granted if you have them available to you at home or at your workplace. But if you don't have them available, then the public library is a place that can connect people to those resources. Feels slightly strange pointing my clicker at you. So what I have up on the screen here is some system-wide statistics of usage, and then I also have some local Sicamous stats in front of me that I'll share as we go through. But so in 2025, on the daily average of people through the doors of a branch of the ORL was almost 4,000. So that indicates, like, if all of our branches were to suddenly close for whatever dreadful reason, that would be 4,000 people who every day up and down the shoe swaps and the Okanagan would be struggling to get those needs met. System-wide, we ran on an average of 35 programs per day. So considering we have 30 branches and many of them are not open 7 days a week, we're clearly running an average of more than one program a day. So here in Sycamoose for 2025, 270 programs were offered, which was actually a 9.3% increase over 2024. So Angie and Belinda are really working hard across the hall. And the door count, as we call it, or people count, the number of people in through the doors in 2025 here in Sycamoose was 18,294. And that was a 4.4% increase of the year before. So a lot of people in and out of this space and an increasing number year over year, which is really exciting. The other points I wanted to make on this slide was also the role the library plays as a free open space. So I actually had lunch with Angie and with Councillor Evans, who's on our board, and we were talking just about how the visitor center isn't open, the library is where people come to get information about the community. This is a beautiful summer destination, and if there's a sudden rainy day, maybe you come to the library, you often do. I was presenting in Revelstoke yesterday, and Angie's equivalent there, her name's Katie, shared with me that last week when the highways were closed, then an entire tour bus load of Japanese tourists were dropped off at the library for that day. They were trying to get to Banff, they could not, so they spent an entire day at the library.
That's awesome.
Yes. She told it as like a positive, fun story. Got the games out and we out. So gotta do whatever we can. Yeah. So another valuable use, sorry, I'm sorry. Here. Is that again, of course, libraries are free open spaces, so that could be for fun and recreation, or could also be for people to do work. So I talked earlier about the increasing role we're playing of helping people apply for jobs, print off resumes, figure out online forms. But we find that our branches are often used as a space for people to work remotely too. And I know I do that. I'm traveling up and down our service area all the time, and I'm always using the meeting spaces in our branches, or a branch like Sycamoose, just finding a quiet corner to get through some emails or take a Zoom. So tech support is also an area that I see my staff participating in more and more. So again, we have Wi-Fi and we have free public internet stations, but it's also very common that people come into the library and they want to access our e-resources, which then brings up a whole array of, I got a new phone and I really don't know how to use it, and I don't know how to download not just this app, but any app. And so our staff are really helping people on the fly with personal devices, and especially in smaller centers like Sycamoose, it's like, well, where do you go? Your first stop is the library. So that's a really valuable role that we fill, and especially now it's tax time. So people are very often do their taxes at the library. So languages, the majority of our collection, there's about 800,000 items. Most of those are in English. We do have a French collection also though, that floats, so it travels between all of our branches like the rest of our books. We also have a Ukrainian language collection, which is shown up on the screen there. Most of those titles were donated by Ukrainian speakers in our service area. We also have a Silks language collection that's permanently housed in our West Bank Learning Lab location on West Bank First Nation land, but people can borrow those resources from anywhere and return them to any of our branches, and then they just make their way home to the WFN branch. And then this year we're investing $90,000 in e-resources in languages other than English. So those are mostly going to be books and audiobooks that people can access from their devices. And we're starting there because then they will come pre-cataloged and we'll make sure that the titles and subject headings they have are accurate. Because of course, most of our staff still speak English at this point, so don't want to risk mistranslating the material. So there was Angie herself at the end of the seed swap last year. But this is one of the slides that is most near and dear to my heart. Of course, as CEO, I'm responsible for all the staff who work at the ORL. We have a little over 330 staff right now. And I would say one of the benefits to our staff of working for a regional library is the opportunity to work between locations. So for instance, Angie used to work at the Enderby branch as a permanent position. Now she works here, but she still picks up shifts in all of our surrounding locations. So that allows people to build up a full-time portfolio, even if they live in a smaller community. And then of course, for us as an employer and from a public perspective, it's really beneficial because there's an idea exchange that's always happening as people move between locations. I also really rely on the work of our staff. I rarely get involved in branch level programming and service delivery. So that's really dependent on the passion and expertise of the staff who work in those communities. And then ending on a positive note is children's services and family services. So last year I spoke quite a bit about Summer Reading Club, one of our busiest times of year. So last year, 2025, we had a total registration of 7,602 kids signed up for Summer Reading Club. And then they can come to programs and get prizes at any one of our 30 branches. In Sicamous, there were 355 kids registered. So, which I believe from the conversation I had with Councillor Evans today, that's more than the enrollment of the school there. So obviously people were choosing to sign up in Sicamous because this was where they wanted to be over the summer. So that's really exciting to see. And then right now, programming is, or planning is already underway for Summer Reading Club 2026. So there will be a system-wide performer, we're not quite sure who they'll be yet, that will come and do something flashy at every branch. There will also be Evan the Juggler is going to come back to Sicamous, and I've been told he will have his extra tall unicycle. I've never seen this performance, but the ceiling here is tall enough that it will be an extra tall unicycle, so that's exciting. And then every week over the summer, then the staff have a different theme of what we call passive programming. So people can drop in time and do activities because we really find that the weather's nice, they want to go to the beach, and if it's less nice, they want to come to the library. So here in Sicamous, we find that drop-in programs usually work better than pre-planned. Everyone has to come at a certain time. A few of the other partnerships I wanted to mention is the staff here work regularly with the grade 7s and 8s next door. So those kids come over to the library regularly. They do murder mysteries and escape rooms, and they all get library cards, and they do using and visits and more exciting as well. I think that's what I got to say. Yeah, so the next slide is just if you have any questions or comments.
Council, any questions or comments? Councillor Bailey.
Thanks very much, and I really appreciate this movement on in the age of AI and not just Microsoft and social media. I think reducing isolation is one of the challenges to having physical spaces, because the trend isn't particularly good when it comes to people interacting. It seems like you know, I'm of a certain generation where that's all you did. You did go to the library partly because you wanted information. That's now obviously shifting with everything being online. But the other part was it was a social kind of atmosphere that you meet fellow students or whatever doing this kind of projects. And I just wondered if you could touch on, you know, I assume you guys are thinking about this, or libraries across the world are probably thinking about this. It's like, what's your role in the age of instant information on your phone, and how do you kind of fit into that mold? Like, it's clearly needed, and I see that isolation piece very key, but I don't know, like, you've had kind of conversations about this and some thinking around it.
Yeah, definitely lots of thinking and conversations. Yeah, I think first getting to the point of isolation and libraries providing a connection. Like when I decided to become a librarian 20 years ago, I thought that the hardest part of being a librarian was going to be, are people going to continue using the library in the increasingly digital age? And it's been wonderful and a little bit surprising and amazing to me that, in fact, like our usage stats keep going up, and that's true in libraries all across Canada. So like the circulation of physical books has remained about the same, but then people are reading digitally more, and they're coming out to programs a lot more, which certainly indicates to me that maybe there aren't as many opportunities to do that, and the library is really filling that need. And then on the reading front or the access to information front, I sure don't have a definite answer to that. Like it was statistically evident that people are still reading, like they are still reading books. More people are doing it on their phones or on their, laptops than they used to. But so it would seem that even though there's this constant deluge of like clickbait information, I think that's really filling a different niche in people's brains and psyches than reading a book or reading a book. So I'm really curious about
Thank you. Councillor Rich.
Hi, through the chair. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to what you guys do and what Angie and Belinda do. And I spend a bit of time there, and both my kids do too. And one of the things I really find is you guys are always running like different fun and exciting and always mixing it up to involve the community. And it just things that you wouldn't think were going to be at the library, they're at our library. So really appreciated.
Thank you.
so much.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, for the chair, yeah, thank you very much, and I'm curious, along the line, I think of the last question about, I'm thinking about digital security, like just digital safety, and I think you're saying that that's not something that you get into quite as much, but it definitely is an issue with not only our children, our teenagers, but also our adults in terms of what they're picking up on their phones and what they're exploring. So it's an area, I think, of a lot of concern. So I'm just wondering if you've got any thoughts on that, or whether the library talks about the security of it, or.
Yeah, some of our branches, I don't believe Sycamoose is one, but some of our branches actually offer online security as a program that people can take. So a lot of that depends on what expressed interest is from the team. So I know West Kelowna last week, then they run a program in partnership with a local entrepreneur that is specifically for seniors, but I think really anyone can take it. That's about cybersecurity. So that's something that we do at some of our branches. And right now, as an organization, we're doing cybersecurity training for all of our staff, because we have which is sort of sideways related to what you're talking about, but it's like you can have great online, we can have great IT infrastructure to protect ourselves, but a lot of hacks and vulnerabilities happen from CR. All kinds of suspicious things. So it's something that's certainly on our minds. And unfortunately, a number of big library systems have fallen prey to cyber attacks recently. And I think part of that is that publicly funded. And so, if you're a hacker, you know that have resources and we keep people's information. Like we have when you sign up for the library card, you give the library your phone number and your address. So we take it very seriously that we're not giving out that information, and we're not, training staff to not be vulnerability to the system. Yeah.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, through the chair. And there's a lot of impromptu drop-ins by seniors in our library, and they do everything from bowling in our library to town hall meetings to asking for tech help from our librarians. This morning when we went in to get Angie for lunch, she was talking to a community member that needed a listening ear, and it's such a hub of the community, as well as, like Danielle said, the visitor center on the weekends, and on a hot summer day, a lot of young families come in and the kids browse the books, and the parents take a nap in the chairs because it's cool, and it's a cooling center. So our library is a very big resource, and I want to thank you, Danielle, for being a CEO that goes and visits all the branches and takes care of your staff really well. So good job.
Counselor Bailey?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow on what Pam was talking about because it spurred a thought in my head, and I think it is about isolation, where there's so many seniors that are now getting
Mhm.
ripped off online. And there was actually just something in the Seminar newspaper the other day where a business owner lost $200,000 because they gave them the digital key code or thing, and the bank account was wiped out. This is not an isolated thing, like you hear this a lot, and this is particularly something that affects seniors a lot, but it can affect anybody when you have your guard kind of like that. And that is obviously a devastating blow to that business, and that's actually the business's fault, unfortunately. Hopefully they can recover some of it, but I look at the library as a place for information. This is certainly a place where seniors need, and I think everybody needs, a really good education or some sort of resources around this, because it's probably the number one thing that's affecting people's financial health and security. And yeah, I just wonder, like, I just wanted to pick up on what Pam was talking, because I think that's where you kind of drive it to, is that that would be a critical need to fill, or that would be a huge thing to do for, seniors or others right across your network. People say, hey, you've got to be careful about your digital profile and what you're doing, especially around banking, because those are devastating events, especially for anybody, everybody, especially seniors. So I just wanted to kind of amplify that programs or educations around that, or even if it's a seminar about a particularly good book you have on it, or magazine article you have on it, that would just be, I think, really interesting programming.
Yeah, I've just written myself a note that says cybersecurity training, especially for seniors locally and system-wide. So,
And something that people would.
Go ahead, Pam.
Just a little bit more
Yeah.
on that. That's exactly right. And the other thing is that our young people, our youth, they absolutely need a lot more education on online predation. Because they do get sucked in, and it can be devastating to a youth who has thought he was talking to somebody safe, and it turns out that, so it's not just the seniors, it's the youth as well. They're very susceptible, and they're a lot braver than most of us seniors.
right, or likelier to just go there.
Yeah, they are.
Thank you. Thank you, Danielle. And I agree with Councillor Baylor and Councillor Beach. There is some room, but thank you for all that you do. And I'm so happy that we still have the love for a library. Like, we all grew up with a library. That was our space when we were doing our homework and hanging out. You're absolutely right, hanging out with our friends. And I hope that we don't lose that. And I'm glad to see in the digital world that the numbers for the library continue to go up. So that's really positive, and I don't think we should lose that. I think we should keep encouraging that, because it is a good, healthy space. And thank you, Councillor Evans, for all that you do for the community and the library as well. So Danielle, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Enjoy the sunny drive home.
Carly, we are going to go now to the District of Sycamore Development Corporation 2025 MRDT update.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My younger mobility.
I don't know. 1 second. Try it.
Travel safe.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So this is, I wanted this to be a very quick update for you guys, just in an effort to keep my regularly scheduled updates to you guys a little bit less and more timely when I do it in a couple months for tourism, and really focus on wrapping up. So when I did my year-end update in December, we didn't have the final MRDT revenue, so I think it's really important because it is a good news story, just to let you guys know. And then when I present next, everything will be focused on 2026 and forward. This is where we ended up in 2025. If you can take a look at 2023 to 2024, we were almost flat with revenue, but then you go to 2025, and overall at the end of the year, we had an 11.1% increase. So really good news when we're measured out across the rest of the province in more tourist hotspots, we actually trended higher as an increase for MRDT than other locations. What I found most interesting, and because we just got these and I'm going to do my rounds of accommodator questions, is when you look at some of the change from 2024 on the column there where you see the little arrow pointing up, there's some really interesting anomalies that I want to find out, particularly looking at January, we had a 63.5% increase. And then you have to then take a peek and look at where that increase came from. And so that is OAP, which is our short-term rentals. So when you see that 50% increase just in that provider, sometimes you have to understand that on the OAP line, they don't remit at a regular cadence as our traditional or regular MRDT providers are. So this could be spillover from holidays. So I always take the OAPs with a grain of salt when measuring them against the anomaly months. When you look at March, I mean, really good news, we were up 47.1% over the previous year. And again, that came from OAP, primarily a bump in regular. So my goal now is to go to the accommodators and ask if there was, which accommodator saw that, which will then sometimes tell me what really drove that. I need to go back and look at our historical weather and see if we have a really big snowfall for sledding months. So a lot of these things can translate into that. Then you look at, what was my next one that I was interested in, is the negative 31.8% in August. To me, that was quite shocking because that primarily, it was split through the same, but that was quite a significant loss with the regular. And like I said, OAP, you never know when they're remitting, but for regular to drop 4,000, I'm going to investigate this a little bit more because it seems like potentially when you look at September being an over 100% increase, could there have been a delay with strikes and everything else at the reporting side at the government or Destination BC, whoever produces these, that maybe they missed some of the August revenue because September, well, I look at this and I'm like, yes, we really focus on bumping up September's. I think that might not be great. So we'll take a peek at that. But again, overall, really, really good news. November, also shocking. Again, OAP was driving that down. So I just wanted to run you guys through it as you probably saw the list and we're looking at the numbers, but that's really sort of at a quick baseline assessment of where we are. It does show that we still have some opportunity in these lower months to continue to boost visitation, but with everything that's happening to get that shoulder season visitation up, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll start to see a lot of leveling out in those slower months. That's the goal and that's the hope. So, like I said, good news, 11.1% increase over 2025, and we hope to continue seeing that this year. A lot of these stats, right, so a lot of these stats, again, I covered at the end, but I just wanted to show you the power of website and website visitation. Obviously, when the ferry launched, we started putting up ferry information. You can see those 2 massive spikes. We attributed that directly to ferry communication. That's where we saw our largest spikes, but everything, flows fairly similar year over year. However, our total sessions were up 115.5%, total page views up were 164% over 2024, and total users were up 96%. The spike in those were a lot contributed to the new pages in 2025, which you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen. So we've really been working hard to make sure that we identify for people before they get here, when they do come, where to shop, where to park, newsletters, the different experiences they can do. And as per the previous year, the cameras are still outperforming most of our web pages. So people love those cameras, which is fantastic. We just signed another 3-year deal on the cameras. So they'll continue to be a staple in our marketing. A couple of things that we added that we saw some traction with were the links to the community events calendar and web guides on the event calendar. And then we updated beaches, houseboating, and parks page just as things are evolving and walking paths or trails are evolving. So this is just what I referenced, top pages in 2025, webcams, trails, beaches, ferry, and events. So we know that we put a focused priority in January to make sure that all of these pages were updated and continually updating. Our social media had a best year yet. So on the left, you see Facebook. Over the year, we had over 1 million Facebook views with an increase of 500% in content integration, content interactions, we grew 805% in followers, and messaging was a 343% increase. So we are finding that if you look at just the views on some of our videos, our viral video content is it's surpassing anything that we had hoped to get, and this is all organic views. These very few of these are paid views, so really good. Insights the same, you know, Instagram, we had some good lifts, not quite as many views, so it shows where our audience is actually coming from. When you look at 165,000 views, 4,000 views is a 100% increase for interaction, 57% in messaging, and then followers, we have 1.4 thousand followers. And then TikTok was a new platform for us in 2025, and it's actually really great that we have surpassed our TikTok followers over our Instagram followers. So that's it's pretty impressive. Another one that we are playing with is instead of investing in crazy apps and, you know, kind of not user-friendly widgets, we're just going where everyone goes, and that's Google. And we are starting to build out experiences on Google Maps and sharing that through QR code activation. So we've gone in and we've actually made a Google landmark for the pump track. So now when people are building itineraries, we can help start their journey by recommending where they should go or what they can do. So it takes the guesswork out of a lot of trip planning, or when they visit, if anybody comes into town, they go to the visitor center staff can say, hey, if it's a rainy day, it's funny she mentioned that, the library is now one of our spots on a rainy day where to go. So we're starting to build up these experiences so that when we are able to migrate into a new website, those are already pre-built, making the transition into a new website much easier. We've updated our where to one pager, which the accommodators and retail businesses really find valuable. It's the one thing that they keep asking for, and we actually just edited it and it's in print right now, but we've removed the where to stay for a lot of places because most people picking them up are already where they're going to stay. And we've included things to do. So it actually includes every experience in town. There's a big list of things with an associated QR code. So we're trying to make it very simple for someone to not do more than 2 clicks or a scan and deliver them to a site where the information is easy to find and accessible. So a quick update, I apologize, the font is very small on this, but these are our real-time web analytics. It's unfortunate that we can't get a larger span than 1 month of analytics because the data is just too large, and I've asked them if they will ever change that, but they will only do 1 month. So I pulled the last month because, you know, sometimes it's a slower month, but as you can see, the webcams are still getting, you know, total plays are 4,275 individual plays. And then it breaks down from regions, essentially from all over the world. Again, you have to take it with a grain of salt with VPNs bouncing people all over the place, but it's pretty interesting when you just take a peek at where people are coming from. And then we break it down by country in terms of the total hours watched. And in total, people watch, and keep in mind, this is 1 month. In 1 month, 345, almost 346 hours of our webcams. So we're looking at ways that we can potentially monetize or pay to play logos on the webcams, figuring out opportunities to drive more awareness to our local businesses through our webcams, since it is one of our top web pages. So. And then just a quick update, we talked about this, great representation for the Tourism Advisory Committee. We actually have another meeting next week. So it's a very engaging group and it has a cross section of all of our tourism industry. So the output from them and the engagement has been really good. We've changed how we are holding the meetings, and it's more of a conversation versus a download. And I think I'm getting a lot more information from them by giving them that space to talk about the challenges, which tends to be the pain point for most people, and then we're problem solving as a group. Visitor guide, we finally distributed our last visitor guides that were a 2-year run because visitor guides had its moment of people didn't want that paper visitor guide for some reason. Our digital guide downloads were definitely up, but we just redid the entire visitor guide. So I appreciate anybody that gave the feedback. It's in print right now. It'll be in market in the next couple of weeks, and then it'll be distributed. We also have the updated visitor guide. The digital guide is uploaded right now, so you guys can go in and take a peek to see what it looks like. And then our newsletter, if you've signed up, you would have gotten a newsletter email about an hour ago, because we just sent it out. If you're not signed up, you really should, because it is a very informative piece of information. If anyone's not signed up, I can forward you the email. of the newsletter, but you simply go on exploresecnews.ca, scroll to the bottom, just put your email in, but we work very hard to make sure we capture everything that's going to be coming up in the next month. And there's lots of good information about how to plan your vacation or what you get to. And Sick Moves Fairy Society, we actually just finished the new card design today. That's going to print. And I've now stepped into another committee that's very targeted about destination management with myself and Destination BC, Erica Hummel, who is in our region. She's a destination development manager, Phil McIntyre Paul, and a couple other stakeholders, Sound Arm Tourism, and then some of the North Shuswap, South Shuswap tourism providers. And we are leaning on Destination BC to get more active in sponsoring this. So at the BC Tourism Conference that I attended at the beginning of March, I sat down with Toda and Destination BC, and the ferry is their new gem, essentially. So they have this program that they've invested untold amounts of money called the Iconics program, and this is a program that they promote globally. So Destination Canada takes it and they promote it in all of the countries that have been identified as countries that drive visitation in Canada. We are part of that Iconics program, and it's called the Rainforest to Rockies portion. Within that, we got almost zero, we're a dot on a map, there's really no references. And now with the ferry coming in Sick Moose, they see this as a wonderful anchor experience that has the capacity for them to really come on board. So they've actually given us at the very end of the fiscal year a $2,000 grant, essentially, to do more of the cards. So they wanted their logo on it, but now we're going to increase by 3 times the amount of printed ferry cards that we go out, and they're going to take them and distribute them all over BC. So they're helping us now spread the word about this little ferry in Sick Moose that's going to take people over to the rail trail. So it's a really exciting time, because the goal is to now get more funding for the marketing and get them to really lend their expertise, both from Destination BC and Toda, to push the ferry and highlight this as the new anchor experience in the Shuswap. And then just some other initiatives. I touched on these, nothing's changed. You guys have the presentation. I don't want to take up valuable time reiterating these, but that was 2025 tourism in St. Louis.
Carly, thank you so much. Council, questions? Councillor Beach, then Councillor McCabe.
Yeah.
Then Bushel, Councillor Bushel.
Thank you. That's just amazing what you do, and I just, it's so impressive, and I've got to wonder, like, do you have an opportunity to meet with other active other communities and sort of share ideas, or are they doing similar stuff? Like, I think it's just amazing what you're doing, honestly. It's crazy, and obviously it's working because it's being picked up by, provincial organizations or infrastructure wanting to promote as well. They see it as a tail. So good work.
Thank you.
And you're STEM. So what is everyone else doing? Are you all doing this kind of stuff for BC? Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, really sure. It's so from the variety of committees and stuff that I sit on, and also the association, so Mountain Bike BC and BC Bird Trail and Sled BC, those associations that we pay to allow us to connect on sometimes a weekly or a monthly basis with a lot of different user groups, which is great for us, because obviously as we move towards, and I'll be able to update more about the biking, Sick Moose biking experience, those types of conversations are happening all the time. So I typically have weekly calls in our corridor, so Revelstoke to Salmon to North and South Shuswap, and even into Vernon, because we kind of see the same traveler. And then obviously at conferences, I take every opportunity to attend, online meetings and conferences, so that's where we can network and start changing. And yes, to answer your question, every community that has a unique asset or experience, they're, really, really investing into less noise and more dedicated focus on a few things to really make their destination shine. We are so lucky. We have so many easy things that make us shine. It's sometimes hard to, get it down to this small little pocket, because We are very lucky, and people recognize that when I'm presenting, something like this at the monthly CDMO, which is all of the destination marketing organizations in the TODA region, you know, we get a lot of comment and feedback about some of the programming that we're doing, so. It's nice.
Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, in my travels down to Mexico, and you know, I said, oh, where are you from? Sycamore. Oh, yeah, that's where the ferry is. And that's every time. Oh, that's cool. That's where the ferry is. And that's a unique destination for Sycamore. So that's guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Malcolm. Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair. Yeah, great job, Carly. I love everything you do, the way you put the numbers together, and I know, you know, it's all the analytics and also the short-term rentals and the accommodators. And I really, really like how you put it together, and it's good to track all those. And it's kind of funny, you look at the analytics and some of the high volume places like you see where Malcolm is, must be him on there. Checking out the webcams.
Yeah, exactly. Over bouncing the sycamores.
The guy who is Brett Joyce, he's checked it 4 times. So it's kind of really, those numbers are really important, really, really important. Yeah, and thanks very much for spending some time with that developer in the town on the weekend and last week, and we had lots of good meetings, really well, and hopefully come back and spend more time with you.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I have to give a huge shout out to Tom and Bianca because I did not make this sheet. I just report on it. They sent me these, so I'm very appreciative that they make these spreadsheets for me.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, the numbers are looking good, and I think you're absolutely right about the strike having, I don't think you can break down those months the way they are, because it's just, I think the BCG had an impact for sure. I would say last January, February was pretty solid for sledders and snow, and we had pretty consistent weekends. So it is kind of weird that the February number was lower than that. But I suspect that's just a reporting thing. But I mean, the trend overall, 81% is definitely a good one. Just a little comment on the ferry. I mean, I think it's great. It's an opportunity to highlight cyclists. I think the one thing I would just say is I think we should leverage off of that ferry to start telling a larger story about cyclists. Like if that's the hook, then you want to have your plan B and see how you go past the initial hook. And I think I totally agree that the ferry has been this initial hook to get people interested in sycamores. And now what's the next part of that story? And I would say that's an opportunity for us to gain more understanding, acceptance about the full breadth of what sycamores has to offer. And that would go through the season. So that'd just be my comment. Like it's been a great, asset community, but we should also take a look at the marketing opportunity that comes out of it, that we can leverage off of it. And I think that's where our next opportunity kind of is. And but all positive, and it's always kind of like what's next down. So it's good. I know. It's a good decision. It's kind of my point. Thank you, Curtis.
Carly, thank you. And thank you for all that you do. You know what we do, there are other communities doing this, but we have the assets and we have the stuff here in Sycamores, and you are doing a brilliant job of communicating that. And Explore Sycamores is doing a great job of sharing that. And the webcams, I mean, I've always been a big fan because it just brings people into town without being into town, being in town, and it just lets them, plan their travels. So thank you. And I'm happy to see all the numbers the numbers are looking good too. So thank you very much. Great job, Carly. Okay, we're gonna move forward here with the recreation program survey results. Kara, take it away.
Going to be going over the rec survey results. So as for the December finance meeting, it was discussed that staff were going to create a rec survey just to discuss program offerings and see what residents are looking for. So we specifically focused on getting input on timing, price point, and program offerings. So we had the survey open from January 30th to February 17th.
And this was an online survey that we promoted on social media, also on our district webpage, and then we also distributed it virtually and in person to different community groups. We had it distributed to like the PACs and then also through Amelia, our online program website, and then also a physical copy to the senior center. So we really just tried to make it accessible to a wide variety of residents. And then last week we posted a summary of the findings on social media and the district webpage, just to close the loop with residents. So who participated? There were 88 participants in the survey, and it's kind of small, but a majority were from Sicamous at 86%, and then just a few from surrounding areas, area E and F, and then other. And then the bar graph on the bottom represents which age demographics were represented in the survey. So as we can see, all ages were represented, with the most in the 30s and 60s, and then the least in the 20s to 40s age category. So there were just some key themes. Overall, there was a high preference for drop-in classes over multi-week programs across all age groups. And we also asked questions about the price point for drop-ins and multi-week programs. So we're definitely going to take that into consideration for next season's programming. And then a really big theme was more adult program offerings, and I'm going to get into this more in the next slide. And then the indoor pool came up a lot across all age demographics. This wasn't a prompt on the survey or a question, but we did see it a lot. So for kids, that's swimming lessons, and then for adults, seniors, programs like aquafit and aqua aerobics. So I just thought that was something interesting to note. And then we also saw some comments about a youth lounge, so just more of a unstructured, relaxed place for youth to hang out, where there's like gaming consoles, couches, stuff like that. And then we also saw comments for utilizing indoor spaces during winter, so just some more fitness programming in the winter. Recommendations were specifically like volleyball and badminton. And then we also saw some comments to partner with local businesses and groups to enhance annual event production and also to offer specialized programs. If there was anyone in the community that had special skills or certifications, there's the opportunity to connect with them and provide programming. So then onto program ideas for different age groups. These were optional questions that we had asking for each age group what programming they would like. And I think it's important to note that the question for adult programming had the most responses, so that really again reinforces that participants are looking for more adult programming, and kids programming had the lowest response rate, so participants aren't really looking for more kids program offerings. But just some ones that were touched on for kids were art classes, gymnastics, soccer, and dance. And then for adults, what we really saw was more fitness programming, specifically Zumba, Pilates, and HIIT were the most popular ones that we saw. And then the other major theme for adult programming was more adult learning classes, which I thought was really interesting. So classes like languages, technology classes, cooking, or seasonal events like wreath making in the winter, a lot of interest around that. And then for seniors, we saw suggestions like low impact fitness classes, Tai Chi, cooking, and intergenerational programs. So a desire to connect with different age groups. And then for barriers, we asked what prevented participants from currently participating in rec programming. And what we saw was scheduling was the number one barrier. And we asked about best times for each age group to best understand their needs, how we can adjust current timing in the future. And then some other common barriers were lack of awareness and lack of interest. And for lack of awareness, we saw some comments regarding not having access to social media. But then also, even with participants who are on social media, there is still that disconnect between what we have offered and like just not seeing that. Because for adult programming, we did see a lot of suggestions for yoga and pickleball, which we do currently have, and that's something the district offers. So clearly there is a disconnect there and an opportunity to better advertise our programs. And then for lack of interest, yeah, we can just look at the suggested programs to see how we can refresh our offerings. And then opportunities for growth, like I mentioned, we can widen the reach of program offerings. So we can enhance our social media visibility. Our recreation Facebook page has all of our programs and events listed there as like events on Facebook. So I think that's a really great resource where residents can see what programs are being offered in Sicamous. So we can just implement some strategies that we use on the DOS social media to increase the reach there, because it's a little underutilized. And then we can also explore additional paths for promotion that are online to make sure we're reaching all our residents and making sure this information is accessible. And then we can also collaborate with community organizations to increase program visibility and offerings, because like I mentioned earlier, we did see some comments for Tai Chi for seniors, which the senior center already offers. So there's an opportunity there to collaborate with the senior center just to see how we can boost their visibility for their programming. And again, we can also increase the production of our annual events. So that's it for me. If you have any questions.
Sarah, thank you very much. Great presentation, lots of information in there for sure. And I think I'm a little surprised by the kids are happy, but the adults want more to do. So it's like cooking classes. Council, any questions? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of overlapping programming between the senior center, what we do, and I'm surprised at the adult funding. I really am, because I often see so much advertising going on, whether it's like we bowling at the senior center, like there's just so much more. And I wonder if there was any more insight that came out of it than just I didn't know. Because that one just surprises me a lot, because I see so much of it actually getting printed form in from the events they do, like the seniors lunch, they let them all know. And I just wonder what the disconnect is there, or is it just an easy kind of like, this is why I'll do it because I don't know about it. Like I'm just kind of, was there any more insight, or is it just kind of that's as much?
Not particularly. There were some comments saying like that they just didn't see it, and that was an option that we listed. So just the choice.
Okay.
Councillor Bushel and Councillor Evan.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, great job, Karen. Thank you very much for that information. Excuse me. Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing, and I just with all the young families in town, I thought there'd be more, just be more things for kids, right? And I don't, maybe they didn't get the memo or something. I don't know. But another question: when we had the open house for the school kids that came in, they did a survey, or they did a letter too. And could we, kind of get a copy of that and get a copy
It's
the 88 responses, email or something to us, and just, I always like to go through it, but I think it's great. Thank you.
Just before we move on, yes, the letter is prepared and we'll get everyone a copy. We just finished it today. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm trying to wrap my mind around the scheduling thing. Trying to figure out what folks would want. Like, are we doing programs or that they're not available on that night? So I'm going to spitball here. Is pickleball on Thursday night, does that mean they want it on Tuesday? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that. Do you have any more insights into that, Kara, from the work? Or
For scheduling, we weren't really looking at specific days of the week, or just like times of day. So like for adult programming, we saw a desire for evening programming, and then for kids that aren't in school yet, there was like the afternoon time. So just using this timing on like creating future programs, but not necessarily looking at days.
Okay.
Thanks, Dean.
So just going to mention, thank you, Karen. This is the beginning analysis, so we'll do more drill down in specific categories to look at more detail on seniors and children as to what programs there are. We are going to take this information as baseline information, and we're hoping in this type of a format we're going to have something we can revisit, see how the trends are going over time. But there's more study that needs to be done more survey work in this format. It'll give us a feedback that's consistent. The programs are gonna be revisited. Jamie and I are meeting tomorrow to begin that process. So the output of this is to begin to look at what programs can shift and what components would be better to fit kind of some of the survey results. This is only a segment of the community as well, so we'll see how those programs work and continue to work on this. So it's just the beginning. This is not the end of the continuation of consultation.
And I kind of feel like you're right. We do have some duplication here. So there are things that we can put together, and like you said, Kara, there are things that we can work on to make them better and make sure that other people are aware of them, because maybe there's some things happening that people just aren't tuned into yet. So yeah, I think a great survey. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'm gonna address the elephant in the room about the pool.
Oh.
Because everyone is like, oh no. But I'd actually like to have a discussion about staff putting out an official kind of facts about a pool and the process that the community would have to go through if they want that and what it means. And some ballpark estimates, because I have tried to explain this issue to a lot of people in the community about how it has to go, right? And there is a specific process this has to go, but we've never developed anything officially from the district saying, hey, if there's this groundswell to have an indoor pool, this is how it would have to unfold. Here are the financial parameters that we would be looking at. Here is what the community would have to vote for it as well. It would have to be in conjunction with area and others, right? So I would just like to ask staff, or maybe put a motion forward to ask staff, put together a fact sheet on this. So then the facts are out there. And then, it's not pro or against, but just what the process would be. Because it isn't easy, it isn't straightforward. It would require the district taking on a certain amount of debt, and that would have to go into voter approval as well, right? So I just wonder if we have a discussion about that, because I think there's a lot of discussion in the community about it, but I don't think there's a lot of understanding in terms of what our legal and corporate, how we would have to do it as a council, right?
So we can fast track that because Golden just did all of this work and their population is about the same as ours. So if we could get their information and bring it forward,
Put a fact sheet.
we could create go ahead.
Yeah, we likely would do a staff memo, just give some basic information. Very ballpark, very high level costing, and we could provide that to council.
And if I could just, I think it'd be really helpful, because I think we've all heard this multiple times, and one of the things that always gets me is that it would be easy to do, and there's that perception that doing a pool would be easy, and I think it just requires a fuller understanding of how complicated and how expensive it is. And I don't want to see that it gets perceived that this would be a small undertaking, it would be large. But if we don't have something official and we don't have something like saying, here is the process, then I worry that it's just people say, no, we can't afford a pool. And I want to try to get away from that, because if the community did want a pool, then that's fine. Then we have to go through that process, and then that's something that there has to be people. A whole community has to audit on it. Yeah.
Councillor Bushel, Councillor Rich, then Councillor Beach.
Yeah, through the chair, I would second that motion to have that done, because there's a lot of information. If you go through the Golden one, it's very detailed and there's a lot of really good information on the costs of what it takes to get there. And it would be pretty easy to put the information together, for sure. And then, I'd love to see you drill down further and get Jamie and Kara together and drill down further and hopefully have some good response so that we can, direct our programming to the right areas.
Thanks, Councillor Bushel. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair, just to follow up kind of what Ian and Gord had to say. I would even like if we had another survey that there would be, do you want to pay $25 more a year in taxes or 150 or whatever? And then here are your options, what you can do with that. So people understand the programs. Maybe people want a roller rink and that's something we can do. Or, we talk about the outdoor rink and I know we're waiting on the grant for that. But again, so people actually understand the costs, not just to build, but then also the maintenance and, finding out what people actually want to add to their taxes, because we don't know that. People may not have a problem paying $50 more a year. Some people may not be worried about $400 a year. So I think it's actually a really good question and kind of show them what that money would get them and also the long-term costs of a lot of these, with the programs like dance or something, obviously that comes and goes, but anything that we're building like a rock wall or an outdoor rink or a pool, then they have all the information to make the decisions.
Councillor Beach.
Through the chair, I just want to, and I don't know, maybe someone else has more information, but Salem Arm, of course, has had their pool for a number of years, and I know that it's coming up for a lot of upkeep and repair, and I mean, it's a water building, right? And I think that it's exciting to have a pool, but I think people don't really understand over time what goes into a building like that to maintain it over the years. And Salmon Arm, I think, is at that critical point where they have to step in and do some significant work. So there's a lot to consider in taking on, investing in something like that.
Absolutely, and they've got a big.
The idea, but it's just a big.
Yeah, and they have a big tax base too. We've got, 3,000 people, same as Golden, and there was a point where I think when we were having the discussion at the CSRD table that it was like an $800 tax increase per resident to get a pool in and maintain, right? So it's a lot of money, but I do agree with Gord and Ian that we should let's share that information with the community and let's see how they respond to that.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. So I just have the direct staff to provide a memo back to council on the process and costs associated with an indoor pool, and then communication and providing communications out to the public.
Yeah, I think I'm totally fine with the memo, but I would actually just do a communication piece out as well. And just high level big numbers, or not big numbers, but just
The numbers.
or process, whatever. I mean, they're gonna be big.
They're gonna be big numbers.
So anyways, yeah, I think that's just the important thing.
And then I had motion by Ian, seconder Gord, and then if we want to call a vote.
Okay, all in favor? And that's carried, thank you.
Just for council's clarification, so the process would be the memo would come to council. Once you've endorsed it and get receipt, then we would do the communication piece. Just so we're not spreading information in the community and you say, wait a minute, whoa. So that's just kind of the process we would follow.
Okay, it's good, thank you. Okay, all right, let's move along then. Okay, we're going to draft the official community plan. There's a recommendation the committee of the whole receive the draft of the official community plan for discussion and provide direction for revisions prior to presentation to council for consideration of first and second reading. Could I get a mover on that? Councillor Bailey, Councillor Bushel. Nicole, do you want to look at her chomping at the back?
Hey, thank you through the chair. We're excited to finally present the draft official community plan. So I have just a few slides to remind us of where we're at in this process and then forward. Some background. So in February of last year, Urban Systems prepared a proposal to update the district's community plan, and then follow a review process by the district. They were the successful proponent, and the goal of the OCP update is more of a refresh versus a comprehensive review and full update. So on the next slide, some of our goals here, I've got a couple of slides of what we wanted to achieve with this. So address legislative requirements for OCP updates. Wanted to respond to the changes in conditions and priorities.
We had a piece to engage and involve the community, of course, through a streamlined engagement process, which I'll couple slides. Establish clarity and user-friendly policy direction. We wanted to focus on updating, developing key sections of content, and then align and integrate other district plans and strategies, because we've been doing a lot of work in the last 10 years since the OCP was adopted. Couple other things, we want to align, of course, with the residential land use designations and policies of Code 44. That's a requirement. One of the main reasons why we've been doing this. Integrate and support the housing needs assessment and some of the great work that June's been doing and the previous planning team. And then strengthen the TUP policies. We've been talking about that quite a bit at planning and development committee meetings. Some development permit area updates, including hazard and riparian areas. Some general housekeeping updates, reorganizing, definitely updating the mapping, which is still ongoing. That's a pretty big undertaking. Revising to help with enforcement, and not necessarily by law enforcement, but more for when we have planning applications in front of us, being able to use the OCP to help guide those decisions. Council. Then modernizing contents throughout, specifically to around ALR, agriculture, just general updates to legislation. Okay, so this slide has been presented before by Urban Systems. I wanted to give an update of where we're sitting now in the process. We've done phase 1, that was our startup. We had the communications and engagement plan, and then Urban collected background documents and information. Then they moved into the technical review, that was May of last year, and started some of that GIS-based mapping. There was a council meeting, project kickoff, open houses, and then they completed the technical review. In summer of last year, the OCP in a week was held. And so that was more open houses, council, meetings with council, and that was to develop the summary report. So most recently, it's fall of last year up until now, Urban Systems developed a first draft of the OCP based on all of these previous steps, including the community's engagement. And the district team, all of the departments reviewed it. And then Urban developed the second draft, which is this one that's been attached to the agenda for today. That's been circulated to First Nations and it's presented. So that's why I say we're in between 4 and 5, phase 5. And after feedback from this meeting and workshopping at Planning and Development Committee meeting, we'll further refine it and prepare it for in a bylaw for first and second reading. Then on the next page, we'll receive that input from council, workshop it, refine it into first and second reading, and then we'll do external referrals. So BLC, CSRD, School District 83, Ministry of Transportation. Not to say that we haven't already engaged with these groups, but we'll do a formal referral to them. Follow up with First Nations, and then a public hearing is required. So that's an opportunity for the public to let us know their thoughts on the OCP, go into third reading, and then finally adoption. Well, the next slide, I just have a link to the draft OCP from the agenda. We'll just open it up.
Sorry, and I may have missed that. When do we want, what's the schedule that we want this adopted by? Sorry.
Pardon?
When do we want adoption? What's the schedule?
Okay, through the chair, highly dependent probably on the required external agency approvals. Our goal would be summer as soon as possible, but I threw in July. Dean has any other anticipated dates, but it really depends on the external agencies.
Hey, council, any questions? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, so we were gonna look at this at planning 2 weeks ago, but we had a lot of people away and so we did. But it's scheduled for this Wednesday. We're gonna go through it. I know one of the committees picking through it and looking at it more in depth. So I won't go into any of that stuff here today, but just to know that that's our next kind of part of the process. I mean, I don't know if council has had time to look at it. They should, but maybe we come back after planning and put it back on a cow. I don't know how people feel about that. And then take those recommendations out of the committee and see how council feels about it, or we just go right to council too. I'm just kind of thinking through what the best and timely process is. And I think the one thing that's not clear is when it gets adopted, because that's go to cabinet. So I mean, I think in my conversation with Dean, it seems like they know they have to approve all these things, so I assume it's gonna go too quick because they mandated it. But you just don't know. And then in terms of, I guess, the public, it's good that it's on this agenda because now everyone will have access to it and hopefully go through it, depending on how many amendments council has. I know I've heard a few out in the community, so there's definitely gonna be some movement on this document, I would think. And I go from there, but I mean, in my opinion, if we hit this before the end of August, that gives us enough time. Or in August, if we shoot for July, we'd actually achieve August, and that would probably be good in my mind. While still doing a good job with content, because there is quite a bit in here, stuff, like it's a big document, so. Anyways, that's just my initial thoughts.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, I agree. There have a few people in the community in the ALC area and also on the waterfront that have been waiting for this moment to be able to see the document. And so I mean, I know it's going to go to the public as well, but they like to comment and discuss it. And I told them about certainly going to come to the planning committee. And really appreciate it, Nicole. Thank you very much. Looking good. And it's a big document, and there's some changes that I see. There's a couple things on the maps too. So I'm looking forward to discussing it.
So I guess I have a process question, because if this does go to planning, that's great. And you guys will have a look at it, but I sort of feel like there's a bigger conversation with council, bigger than a cow meeting, or maybe it's an extra time spent at a planning committee where these suggestions can be, because I've gone through it too, and I've got a bit of a list of questions as well. So I guess, should the cow meeting be council included and public included, and could it be a bit more of a conversation, or is it going to be a process-driven meeting of? Dean, go ahead.
I think once we've had the PDC meeting, we've got that, we're gonna come back to the cow meeting. I think that's likely gonna be this case. We're gonna talk about some of the revisions, have more opportunity to go through the details. Really, this process today is just to get this document out. We've got some specific ministries, like the Ministry of Environment on the riparian piece. You have to get this info to them a lot of because this is new. Because we're bringing riparian development permits into our jurisdictional authority, so I gotta get this to them sooner. This is gonna take longer. So this is just that process so we can get going on things. But I'm expecting we're gonna have a cow meeting where we can have more discussion before we actually introduce formal bylaws. We don't want to introduce the bylaw and then begin revising it. This is gonna have drafting that's gonna be done for mapping and so forth. So we want to be pretty sure that we're going forward before we pull the trigger on urban systems doing all the funding.
Councillor Bailey.
And then to regular meeting first readings.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, any counselors more than happy to come to planning and development and participate fully. Like, you're totally absolutely. So I would encourage you to come next Wednesday, 9 a.m. And you're allowed to, like, any counselor's allowed to participate, and I welcome it, because that's what I think we're really gonna go through there. And I know committee members actually have a list of stuff that they know. So we're gonna do a deep dive in it. And so that could be helpful. And then maybe get a bit of a head start for when it comes back to cow too. But I just want to make sure everyone feels like they are participate fully. I encourage it.
Councillor Bushel.
Yeah, through the chair, I was going to say the same thing. And it's good that it's on the agenda, so that the people that have expressed concerns to me that are along the ALR on the highway and some of the people on the channel, that they can actually now open it up, open that document up and make notes. And I've encouraged them, to actually come to the committee, the whole meeting, or not, the planning meeting next week as well. So it should be a good meeting next week.
I think sorry.
I'll just ask Dean, like,
Go ahead.
the agenda is really just gonna keep it focused on OCP next week, or do you have?
That's all it is.
Perfect, so then it'll just be a full-on workshop for this, you have. It's recognizing bring your copy.
So I was gonna say, I mean, as their time allocated to go over this, so, but I guess if this is just that, then, and it starts at 9.
And any of council that wants to meet with myself and Nicole, go through the OCP, if you have questions. We're doing that with the public right now. We've got people that are coming to see us to do exactly that process. So you're welcome to do that as well. Just get a hold of me. And we'll book a meeting with either myself or myself and Nicole in June. And we can certainly go through it with you. We want everybody to understand exactly what's happening. Answer any questions that are out there. That's what this process is all.
Councillor Bushel, are you good?
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay, let's call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, moving right along, draft financial plan. Bianca, do you want to take that away?
Close some things and open a few things. So this is a summary of all of the documents that are kind of coming out of our finance committee meetings. So I won't click through. Actually, I'm just gonna share the screen so Siobhan can, Councillor Rich can see. So I have the draft financial plan, the tax rate, which the format really hasn't changed, tax rate bylaw, which I have kind of changed the format on this one of what council is used to seeing. So one thing that I really wanted to highlight in our tax rate bylaw is really maxing out the class 2. So the class 2 is our utilities, which is a lot of BC Hydro, TELUS, those sorts of things. So the maximum tax rate allowed there for general municipal rate purposes is $49. So getting this as close to, or $40, sorry. Getting this as close to $40 as possible. That's why I'm including a total here. So this rate right here can kind of bounce a bit based on assessment. So there's a little bit of volatility in this, but I'm trying to get it as close as possible. And in doing so that's actually a part of our revenue policy. So in doing so, kind of done up a bit of a summary of what that looks like. So this year, by doing that tax shift, I've shifted about $54,000 in taxes away from class 5 and class 6, which is our policy of taking it away from our business classes and shifting it to those utility companies. So in doing so, that shift has actually resulted in a tax decrease for class 5 and 6 this year. So it's decreased it actually by around 3%. So that's that tax rates bylaw. So those are the 2 bylaws coming out of our finance committee meetings at this point in draft. Also, we have the fees and charges bylaw, which that's updating water and sewer rates. So coming out of that meeting, we had a 6% increase in water, 12% increase in sewer. So what does that look like for the average residential tax? So a 3% tax increase is about $58. So about monthly, it's about $5 for a month. Our water changes results in about $2.42 a month, $42 for the year. Sewer changes, $38. They're now paying a month, about $4 more a month. And overall, for all services, monthly or $135.90 for the year, based on all these increases. So 3% tax increase, 6% water, 12% sewer. So that's kind of where we're sitting for overall based on these bylaws. I've included, I won't click on through all these, but general operating budget, full budget binder, water operating budget, sewer operating budget, water and sewer capital plan. The big item that we have is sewer upgrades this year for the capital plan. And before we touch on that, if council has any operating questions right now, before we talk capital.
Questions?
Sorry, that was all over the place.
So the operating is under the bylaw. No, sorry.
Yeah, so operating and capital are both have to be included in our financial plan. So they're both included in here. Really though, it's the general operating budget. This guy, if anyone has any questions, before we really dive into sewer capital.
Councillor Bailey?
So just so I'm clear, the proposed, I guess, $1 million contract that's on council's agenda tonight, that'll be debt service and that'll be through the sewer budget, but the interest rates will go on to operating next year. Is that correct?
Correct, we'll go into sewer operating. So it will not affect, it'll affect taxpayers that are on our sewer system.
But where are we charging that interest? Is it going on for operating or is it going on for sewer? Right, because that $1 million has to be financed and that's gonna be a cost. So does that hit the sewer fund or does it hit general operating?
It hits sewer through a tax though, so it hits, if you look at our actual bylaw here. It'll hit in the property taxes section. It will be a property tax. So we can look at what we're currently would be their frontage tax or parcel tax. Not basing it just off of assessed value because that would not hit our vacant lots as much. Yes. Yeah, on their property tax bill.
Councillor Bailey?
And then that really would not impact this upcoming fiscal year, but it would be to the next cycle. And what do we anticipate that financing to look like? Are we talking 6-7%?
Yeah, so we always look at our capacity limit. So the provincial government actually increased last year our approval free zone. They actually doubled it. So currently the estimate is about 1.5 million debt, which estimated annual payments for that is about 128,000 a year. That's a 20-year term. Because there is a large portion of this project that is within our DCC bylaw for sewer, but as we all know, we weren't collecting sewer DCCs for a while. What we're proposing to do is pay off a portion of that debt with DCC revenue as it comes in. So to try to calm that a bit. So right now, if it was all debt, it'd be 128,000. We're hoping that's more like, with, maybe $50 DCC would be more like 75.
Councillor Bushel? Councillor Bailey?
Just going on with that, I mean, this is like, I'm getting back to land sales, I'm getting back to asset sales, we've not had a chance to have it. I mean, I'll just be honest with the 12.8. So correct. It's 12 super operating 12.44% increase. I'm not super comfortable with that because I think we haven't fully looked at what we're gonna do on land sales and potential asset sales. And I really wanna have that in front of council first. Because if we're able to do that and sell that quickly, we can bring these numbers down because we can use that money to offset what we need to borrow. Or the borrowing period is gonna be significantly shorter than what we anticipate right now. So I mean, I just feel like we need to have that conversation as part of budget. And I know it's not, for whatever reasons, it's not in front of us yet, and it could just be because it takes time to do that. But I really feel like that conversation is needed before. I'm voting on the budget. The 12.44 is, I know it comes down to, if we break it down to per day, per month, and it looks like a small number, but I feel from people that everything is incremental. And I mean, that's the, it's like, it's okay that this is only $40, right? But then you add it on, add it on, and add it on, and this is what's happening. And I think that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at necessarily that we just get an extra $40. Well, that's only from that bucket. Then there's another $40 from school taxes or CSRD or whatever, right? It goes on and on. And so I think the cumulative effects of all of this is adding up to a fairly significant impact to the taxpayers. And the more we can do to minimize that, the better. I mean, we were just talking about the OCD, and I mean, that's going to be an interesting discussion because there's some numbers in the OCD that, as a community, I find quite alarming in terms of the population growth, and it's not growing. If you to believe those numbers, right, it actually is going to decline in some of the projections. So when we're talking about Sycamores having a competitive advantage, we need that competitive advantage because we need to attract people here. And so if we are better than any other community on tax rates, water rates, sewer rates, on business competitiveness, on any of those sort of things, we need to, I think, grab hold of those advantages now because it will help us push us into the future. So I think we have an opportunity to get these numbers down with some strategic sales on property that we don't need and go from there. But I just like to see us not do a 12.44% increase, or if we do, if we have to do that this year, what is the plan that this doesn't happen next year? And I think that's kind of where I'm at.
So go ahead, Bianca.
Yeah, and I think this increase, I don't really think can be put off with land titles, with land sales, just because like right now, we're not putting anything to reserve at this point. Next year, this 310 would be reduced and then it'd be transferred instead to transfers to reserve for ongoing, which really needs to be at around the $300,000 mark. So with that and a restructure of the fees, I think we're hoping that this number is not going to continue, but this year it's really needed, mostly because the only other way to balance this budget is when we go into the capital plan and where we're sitting at with reserves, sewer reserves in particular. After this year and the plans in place, like we're sitting at about 100,000, which for sewer is very, very low.
Oh.
And the next big project after, and one reason why, like, we were just thinking, like, do we go into debt for this project? Well, we have a, 10% contingency, 2.2 million for this ribbon expansion, but next year on the books, we also have Boutwell Lift Station, which right now is estimated about 650,000. So if we don't take on some sort of debt for this, likely we will have to for Boutwell. And it's more, balancing that out and doesn't make the most sense. Boutwell doesn't affect, all sewer users in Sycamoose. The RIBs do. So when we talk about who tax potential, who can we get with this, the RIBs makes the most sense. Selling land, those usually will go into general reserve, and then we would have to, if we did a pool, we would have to just borrow from general, and there would still be a debt cost there to users of the sewer system. But yeah, it would be just borrowing from general. So that one gets a little more complicated. I think the big thing here is by taking on the 20-year debt understanding that the last time these RABs were fully, well, put in really was about 25 years ago. So that's why 20-year debt kind of makes sense because it's based on kind of the age of when we expect to deal with them next, right? Yeah, that's all I've got to say.
Thanks, Bianca. And you've done a really good job of taking us, you know, to the edge. And we do need to be very careful. 3% it's 3%. You know what? If we're not putting money into reserves, I mean, we could see a spike somewhere. And to Ian's point and to Bianca's point, I mean, the land right now selling it isn't going to impact this year, but I do agree. Let's put it into, let's look at those pieces of property and set it up for next year so that it's, you know, it's there if we need it. So, but I think you've done a really good job and we do need to be putting money into reserves for all of our community, for all of our infrastructure. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And we're missing the mark this year a little bit. So that's, you know, I just want everyone to understand we've got to keep the infrastructure and keep our community healthy as well and keep programs going. So, and to another point, we will have more tax revenue coming in. There are more developments coming on right now. We will have more DCCs coming in. So there is something that's going to be picky. I don't want, this isn't a gloomy doomy, you know, story. We've got stuff that we can do and stuff that's coming in. So I just want to make sure that that's understood and that we do need to put money in reserves. We don't want to see an 8% hike, you know, in a year or two where we're like, whoa, what happened? You know, so that's just my thoughts on that. Go ahead, Bianca, and then Councillor Bushel and then Councillor Evans.
And just to know how the debt process works, it's a long process. So this financial plan really isn't you approving the debt. It needs to be in the financial plan with the potential of it being debt serviced. So we'll be having to go through this nice long process and then following with a process that has to run through the regional district as well. So this will take some time. So what usually happens is, so we do our debt our bylaw. It does 3 readings. We do certificates and everything. It goes to the inspector. From there, usually you would either do an AAP process or we have a lecturer approval exemption amount. So that's where we are at. So you would go that route. Then bylaw adoption, then there's a 1-month quashing period. Like it's gonna be a slow process. And then at the end, that just kind of gives you to your maximum. You don't even get the money yet. And then that's actually when you finalize how much you are actually going to borrow. So we could go in saying, you know, we're going to potentially borrow 1.5 million. At the end of the day, we might only borrow like 750, 500. It might be a lot less. But just knowing that this process is quite long and the financial plan is not you approving the debt. It needs to be in there, but it's not actually the approval of the debt.
Councillor Bushel, then Councillor Evans and Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, Bianca, you guys have done a great job, winding it down, you know. And, but I do think that question has to come and, you know, the last 3 terms we have, you know, Sycamoose has really only purchased this piece of property here that this building's on, really. And the rest, then we took on 200 Main and we took on 412 and the other one next door to it. And then we took on the Finlayson building. We have been purchasing land, but we have lots of land that we're not using. And I think that conversation has to come. I know it would be an in-camera meeting, but that has to come sooner than later. And I think some funds are going to be, you know, could be used in some ways to help offset some of the costs.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I just want to thank the team for doing really impossible tasks here. But I know I'm preaching to the choir, but we know that we have to do these things. These are not optional upgrades for Sycamoose. And I know there's going to be a couple 100,000 in DCCs coming in, and I agree that we need to liquidate some land to go towards this as well. But this is amazing work, and considering what we have to do, this is pretty good stuff. So thank you.
Councillor Bailey, then Councillor Rich.
Yeah, no, I think staff's done a great job. beyond it, those are numbers inside out. Advice, I think we could be a lot tougher. She knows it, right? And I agree, I'm just trying to, what I'm trying to say is putting, you know, a more not political, but a larger view on it is just that, we understand we have to do this, but the other side of that coin is the taxpayers are tapped out and there is real pain there, right? So somehow I want to marry the two and look at it, and I know we're all trying to do that, I'm not saying anybody isn't, everyone feels the pressure of the situation. But I guess then my next question, because we are talking about that, does that have to go to electors to be approved? It does not, so we actually have that room to take that on within our actual mandate, okay. So then that's something that will be, I guess, within this council or next council's control.
It'll be, looking at it right now based on timeline, it'll be tight if it's this council or next council. We might be able to do it within this council. Yeah.
And then, yeah, I guess that's my only question, yeah, because it was just, what is the process of that?
Councillor Ridge?
Through the chair. Yeah, just thank you to Bianca and her staff. I think this has been a crazy amount of work, and I know that we keep asking for more with less dollars. So really appreciate everything you're doing. And I know that 12% is a shocker for everyone. We knew it was coming, but I think that the community may not feel the same way, but I think we do have to put money in the bank, and we all need to flush our toilets. And also, when you look at some of the other communities that are having these issues, you know, they're getting 18 and 27% and stuff like that. If you go online and look at some of the other communities, so 12 does sound really high, but there is a lot of communities that are getting hit way harder. So I really feel like we're doing this logically, and that over time, we'll have the money in the bank. So next time something comes up, it may be not as big a shock.
Thanks, Councillor Ridge. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you, Bianca. We are going to Mayor and Council reports. Let's start with Councillor Rich on the big screen.
Oh, thanks, through the chair. First I would like to acknowledge the passing of Eileen Whitehead. She was a matriarch in our community and a lifelong member. She passed, and so condolences to her family. Then I attended Dave Williams' meet and greet last night. I had a tour of 222 Temple, which is pretty nice space. Had the opportunity to go to the 4-H speeches. Thank you, DOS. For the space. Avon Johnston and Peyton Colson will be moving to the regionals for our speeches. So that's pretty crazy that we've got 2 kids going. And the other acknowledgement I'm going to make for the 4-H speeches is we had 3 what are called clover buds. So they're under 8 and they got up and did speeches. One did one on their Lego, one did one on chickens, and the other one did one on gardens in front of 30 people. So they got up and they did an absolutely wonderful job, and just going to be great little community leaders. And 4-H will also be at the community cleanup on April 25th. So the community can come out and help Deb with that, and I'm sure that'll be coming up online.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Not much to report. I got to tour 222 Temple as well and see the lovely new townhouses down there. Pretty cool stuff. And other than that, it's been a quick 2 weeks since we had a meeting, whatever it was.
That's the 222 Temple tour. Did you get
Go there anytime.
Councillor Bush?
Through the chair, yeah, I didn't do too much. I was sick, like Siobhan is today. I had probably that same cold a week ago, but so yeah, I did meet a business down by the bridge, wanting to try to figure out how to capitalize or expand their business. So working with them, I met with a resident who has a development proposal going next door to him, and just, you know, it is concerned about the size of the development. The developer for 42 Main Street was in town the weekend before, sorry. And yeah, met with Carly. We went on had a meeting at Carly's, and was a really good meeting. Carly, had a lot of great ideas and Dave, really thought that was a great, really good meeting. And they're working together, today, or ongoing. Dave was again in town this past weekend. We did some tours, with some businesses that are interested in the commercial on the bottom floor, so that was really good. And we did a tour of Revelstoke, we did a tour of Salmon Arm, and just yeah, it was really, really good seeing somebody else that's done so much development and the ideas he come up with for Carly and Mike Melmore. So that was really, really, really informative meeting. I've been on the rail trail quite a bit, talking to lots of different people on the rail trail. I was at the banner unveiling at the Red Barn. That was nice. That was last weekend. So they have the banners for the streets and everything. So I had a good chat with them. I attended the AGM last night for the chamber. And yeah, it's great to have Mike Miltmore as now a new director, he's also a director of the ECDEV, which will be some continuity there. So yeah, really, really, it was a very positive AGM there last night. And again, I'd like to just express my condolences to the Whitehead family. Yeah, I had a good chat with the family this past week, and Eileen she was a counselor in the very first council, the District Sycamoose. I sat on the Justice Restorative Program, youth program with her for years. And yeah, she was a great lady, a pioneer of the community, and she'll be sadly missed for sure. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, not too much report. I toured 222 Campbell also. And it was good that Jessica took the time to explain why that complex is gonna need 12 weeks of short-term rental to make it financially. I have a better understanding of that. That's for all communities.
Thanks. Councillor Page.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report this time. I missed some of these things. I do also want to share condolences to the Whitehead family. Eileen has been an icon in this community since the very beginning of swimming at the beach. She has been involved in absolutely every piece of development and the beginning of all of our sports and recreation programming. So she's just iconic for this community.
Big part of the community, big loss. Councillor Bailey.
Been spending lots of time reading through the CP documents, some really light bedtime reading, so wonderful. And just last night I attended the GM for the Chamber of Commerce, in case anybody doesn't realize that she'll officially retired last evening as executive director, and executive director Jen is taking over, so there's a bit of a transition going on. Chamber of Commerce in the district, but also some really good changes with new board members, like Mike Miltmore, and the new president, who's Tammy Brown, at the chamber. And yeah, so new and interesting things going on across town. It's happy to be part of that last.
Great, thank you. I too popped into the AGM last night. Congratulations to Tammy is a new president and Mike is a board member and Jen is the new ED. So yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting. I attended the CSRD board meeting last week, and the 75K for the Ferry Society was approved by the board, so that's excellent. I attended a North Okanagan Hospital meeting yesterday. Also, been doing a lot of reading on the OCP, and met with MOTT last week. We have a marine committee that was formed in 2019 for all the business owners on the channel, as well as the marina operators. And they started this committee in 2019 in case there would be a reason to shut down the channel for any reason while the bridge construction was going on. So now we are at a point where the bridge construction is going to need a little bit of time to move around in that channel. So there's going to be probably 4 days. And those dates will be released today sometime or tomorrow, but there'll be 2 days in 1 week and 2 days the following week with a day in between. So they have time to work and put it up and make their changes. But that is it. Like, there is no channel closure. I just want to say this nice and loud for everyone listening. There is no channel closure. The channel will be status quo for the summer. Vacationers in and out, busy place, ferry working, everybody's going to be using the channel. So just a couple days where they need, and it's going to be coming up really quick here, maybe end of mid-April to beginning of May, somewhere in there. They need to get it done before the busy season. So that is the story there. And I'm actually surprised that that's all that they're going to be needing. So, and in the meeting, they did mention that everything according to plan and everything, all the scheduling that is in place, that hopefully by November of this year, 2026, we'll be using the new bridge. So that's pretty exciting. What seemed like a forever project, we're getting a little bit closer. So everything, making sure that everything stays on track, we could be cruising the new bridge. All right, and that's it for me. So do we have anyone online? Nope. So we are good. We're going to call our committee of the whole meeting at hang on a second. 2:46. Could I get a mover? Councillor Bailey, Councillor McCabe, all in favor, and we'll see everyone at 5 o'clock. Thank you.